Welcome back to WagerTalk.com. I'm Ralph Michaels. We're talking SEC football with Marco and Preston. Mississippi State at Auburn. Preston, this is one of your best bets. Marco, these two teams have played some ugly games in the past. Mississippi State in a letdown role last week after their big win looked pretty bad. Auburn, the loss to Clemson pretty much is non-existent at this point. If they run the table, they hold their own destiny. What do you take out of this game? Yeah, well, you look at Mississippi State, and the big question is, where does this team actually line up at? Because they went from the penthouse to the outhouse in 2 week period. 2 weeks ago, they just slaughtered LSU 37-7, and then last week they were everybody's darling dog when they went to Georgia, and that line came crashing down, ended up closing under a field goal on Saturday, and they got the doors blown off 31-3. So are they as bad as they were at Georgia? No. Are they as good as they were against LSU? No. But we got to find a happy medium. Auburn, we kind of know what they are. They're a good team. I like them. This is a team that I know you were high on in Preston coming into the season for the SEC. Did they embarrass themselves that game against Clemson? No, because we've seen what Clemson's gone on to do. 14-6 loss at Clemson is very respectable right now. I think this team has one of the better defenses in the SEC. The offense, they ran up a lot of points last week, but that was Missouri. Missouri is just, I don't know what's wrong with that program. That team is bad. So I don't know how much you can take from that game last week.
Yeah, actually, as far as the side goes, I think people that were buying on Mississippi State last week, it was a week too late. And people that are selling on them this week's probably a week too late as well. I mean, you could lay under a field goal on Georgia, but you have to lay 9.5 now with Auburn. I have them similarly rated. I mean, I think the number now is pretty close. So I wouldn't be betting the side. My actual best bet here is on the total, and I like under 50.5. And it's funny because I went into the week early on. Monday, I was recording another show too, and I said, at 48, I actually like the over. And it ended up moving up on me before I really could dig into the matchup, and now it's 50.5, and I actually dug into it, and I love the under. So my number's right at 50.5, but I think the actual matchup is very, very similar to what we see and what we saw with Georgia, who has a premier defensive line in front seven. That Mississippi State, now granted, they're probably going to bounce back some. We knew that last week was such a flat spot for them off that huge LSU win. But Auburn's defense is actually better against the rush than even Georgia's. It's like 2.6 yards a carry. They're fourth in the country behind Clemson, who's number 3. Mississippi State's defense on the flip side is pretty solid. They're a lot better than what they showed against Georgia. Georgia rushed for, I think, Chubb and Swift were 25 carries for 150 yards, 6 a carry. They're much better than that. They only give up 4 a carry on the year, including that game. And they've played a team like LSU as well on top of that. So when it really comes down to it, and Georgia, by the way, 4.7 yards a carry themselves. Mississippi State 4.4, or I should say Georgia, and then Auburn 4.4. In Georgia, who have they played? They've played Appalachian State, they've played Notre Dame, and then they played, obviously, this last game. Outside of Clemson, Auburn's played Mercer, Georgia Southern, and a Missouri team that's in shambles, like we mentioned. So I just think that Georgia's a much more effective run team than Auburn is. And Auburn is obviously a team that likes to run, period. They're like 67% run play percentage. Mississippi State, 62%. So we know it's going to be a running game. Both teams are going to try to control the ball. It's going to be a slower game. Neither team's up-tempo. And so the way it matches up defensively, I think it's just going to be a game that's going low. And maybe not quite as bad as Clemson. 14-6 is probably way too low to gauge for. But you might have something, I think, in that like 20-17 range. And we obviously have points to give if that's the case either way.
And the 51 points they scored last week, 4 turnovers for Missouri helped in that.
Right, even against Mercer, Auburn only mustered up 24. Off that Clemson game, Mercer held them to 24. I don't think the Auburn offense is really fixed or anything.
Auburn and Clemson, the only 2 teams in college football with top 10 defenses and scoring defense, total defense, and pass D. So statistically, they're there. And welcome to the SEC, Mississippi State. 3rd straight top 15 game that they're playing a ranked opponent. I mean, that's the trouble you have playing in the SEC. You get it for LSU, then you got to live with Georgia, and then you got to put up with Auburn. So Preston's best bet, under 50.5, Mississippi State and Auburn. $10 off any package with the code SCORE10. That's a daily package. That's a 3-day package. That's a 7-day package. It's A great deal, folks. If you haven't tried Wager Talk, use the code SCORE10. Try one of your favorite handicappers this weekend. That code expires Sunday at midnight. WagerTalk.com.